Okay, are we good to go now?
Go.
Okay.
Yep, all set.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. On June 16th, 2021, Governor Baker signed into law an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This act includes an exemption until April 1st of 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12th, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The board further reserves the right to discuss matters which could not be reasonably anticipated at the time of the posting of this meeting notice. Should this meeting be canceled due to unforeseen circumstances, the entire agenda will be heard at the next commission meeting. But we're going to have the meeting now, so that won't be in effect. Chairman Snow will be along shortly, but we're going to try to get underway with a few of the things that we can take care of quickly. Are there any additions to the agenda that we have?
I don't think so, Rich.
Okay.
I make a motion, we accept the agenda as written.
Penny made a motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
That
Brendan.
is Brendan, right? Okay, thank
That's
you.
correct.
Okay, thank you. Penny, Brendan. I got to see who's with us here. Andy,
I'm here.
is that okay?
And yes, I vote yes.
And Jen?
Yes.
Thank you. And I say yes. Okay, so on the NOIs, 8 Newell Street has put in a request to be continued. I need a motion to continue that.
I make a motion, we continue 8 New Street to August 16th.
I'll
Penny?
second that. Brendan.
Thank you, Brendan. Jen? Jen
Yep.
Foley? Okay. Andy?
Yes.
So that's 4, and I am recused from that, but that's fine. And we'll jump ahead. And if anybody is joining us for the meeting and has an interest in 150 First Parish Road, there has also been a request to continue that. And so I need a motion to continue that.
Oh, okay, we'll do that. I make a motion, we continue 150 First Parish Road to August 16th.
And I made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second that.
I heard Jen
Go ahead.
first. Jen's got the second. Brendan,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So that's taken care of. Thank you very much. Amy, do we want to go right into 17 Border Street? Although I think we really need Frank for that, don't we?
It would be good.
Yeah,
Why don't you go to some of the administrative items
sure.
to approve and some orders to vote on?
Yeah, why don't we do that? We have,
Minutes.
go ahead, Penny.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as written of June 21st.
Motion from Penny. Do I have a second?
Second, Andy.
Andy, a second. Jen,
Yep.
Brendan,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you.
Okay, want to do the orders of condition?
Sure, that's interesting because I didn't see any special orders on any of those.
I did.
Which ones?
I saw, I think it was Concord, Lowell, and Pheasant Hill.
I didn't see
Peggy
that.
Beach and,
Regardless,
yeah, okay.
do we need to make separate motions, Amy?
No, I think you can just do it the way you.
They were all very standard, you know.
Yep.
There
As
was no
written.
big deal. I
Okay.
make a motion, we accept the orders of condition as written on 14 Peggy Beach Road, 42 Brunswick, 30 Concord, 31 Lowell, and 30 Pheasant Hill Drive, as written.
Thank you. Motion from Penny. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Doug was second. How
Yeah.
are you tonight, Doug?
Hi,
I'm
Doug.
late. It's how I am.
Well, you're not
Good
as
to
late as
hear.
some people, but don't worry about it.
I can always count on that.
Okay, motion from Penny, second from Doug. Brendan,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Jen.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Request for extension.
Okay, so these are just extensions on the orders, Amy? I'm assuming?
Amy Walker, are you with us?
No.
She
What was
went
the
away.
question?
These are extensions on the orders, Jen, for these?
Yes.
Okay, I make a
Excuse,
motion.
one second,
yeah.
here, Penny, are they for a standard 3-year extensions?
Hold on, Amy will be back in a moment. She's letting Frank in.
Well, that's very nice. But we'll finish this and then Frank can take over.
Yeah. More than likely they are.
I would
3
think, but
years.
sometimes we have 1-year extensions. I think
That's
we
a
need to make sure
normal.
which it is.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we're gonna take just a brief pause. Frank is in the building, so just,
Okay, Amy, we have a question for you. The extensions, are those for 3 year? 3 years?
yes.
Okay.
I think we can make,
I
I
made a
think you can make
motion.
one motion for the 3 as long as you specify each one.
Okay, I make a motion that we give a 3-year extension to 4 River Street, 31 Kingsway, and opposite 230 Central Ave.
Motion from Penny. Do I have a second?
Andy.
Second that. Oh, Andy got it.
Andy, second. Jen,
Yep.
Doug,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay, now we can take that little break and let Frank get in and get organized and get into the good stuff. But I will let him know all the stuff that he didn't have to deal with. He should feel privileged.
Yes, he should. Ha, ha. Huh?
He's in the building, so hopefully won't be too long.
Is everybody as sick of the rain as I am?
Tomorrow's supposed to be nice, Penny.
I'm
Might have one
hoping-
day before we get one more set of showers.
Well, just before I came up to this, I was watching the weather and they said we might get showers tomorrow afternoon, even though they have been promising us sun all day.
But we are lucky compared to the western and central.
Oh,
part.
my word, no.
My son's out in Winchendon and they've just been belted.
Well, between the heat, the wildfires, and then you have flooding down south, I think it was in Tennessee. They're terrible, terrible flooding, so.
Not only there, but in Europe and Germany and France.
Oh, yeah, that's right, that's right. So I guess I shouldn't complain, but
Doesn't do any good.
no, it doesn't. It
Last year I
doesn't.
couldn't grow my grass and this year I can't cut it fast enough.
I can't cut it at all.
Well, that's the truth, and I'm growing some fungus in my front yard because it's so moist, and
You got mushrooms?
I don't have any mushrooms, but there's a fungus growing and it's turning the front yard brown.
Oh, that's not good.
It's not good at all. And it came on so quick.
Yeah.
But it just is so thick out there. It is so saturated that something's loving it.
Well, I'm sure everybody in town's facing the same. kind
Yeah,
of issue.
well, yeah.
So,
Well, the shellfish beds are all closed.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, the red
that's
tide.
the result of that's usually a result of too much water too.
Yeah.
Too much rainwater.
Yeah.
Too much rain.
bacteria.
Yep.
All right, is Frank here? Is he on? We're in different rooms, so I don't know.
I do not see him yet.
I swear he's in the building. It'll be momentarily.
Okay. Well,
He got lost.
nope, he's there. He's sitting down.
Yeah.
No headset yet, though. And he doesn't realize how much he's being watched.
All
We're
eyes on Frank.
Bated breath. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and unmute Deb Keller and Steve Ivis also.
Sure.
For the Border Street.
Frank, are you there?
Got lost.
I know he's muted. Frank, are you there? You're muted. There
How's
you
that?
are. Good
Thanks
evening,
a lot. Sorry about that, Richard. or
Frank.
Oliver.
That's fine. Let me tell you what we did. We opened and we took care of the continuances for 8 Newell and later on for 150 First Parish Road. And we did all of the administrative items. So all of that stuff is done.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard.
And so you would start with 17 Border.
Okay, and this is continued. So we have, I know we had a report from Steve Ivis, and then Merrill's the engineer. So do we have someone from Merrill?
You know,
That
I
looks like
can't,
Deb.
Deb is on the line, but I can't seem to unmute her. But maybe, maybe Sean Papich was gonna present.
Okay.
Oh, Josh, oh, here we go, on Joshua's, okay.
Okay, so who's gonna speak first?
Deb is going to speak first. This is Sean Papich talking right now.
Okay.
Deb's going
Thank
to
you, Sean.
handle the heavy load, if that's okay. She's very good at it.
Hi,
Okay.
hopefully you hear me now.
We can, Deb. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, Deb Keller with Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. Looks like we have a blow up of the site up on the screen now. So as mentioned, since our last meeting, Steve was able to go out and back check, finish up the wetland review. He had a couple of comments in his July 12th letter, which we addressed. There was a stone wall. It was a line type that was incorrect, so we removed that along the wetland line. We, as noted before, we did refresh the salt marsh flagging in the area of the proposed work. There were 2 locations in the wetland flags in the BVW more central to the site that Steve asked for the flags to be moved up, which was flags A92 and A109 by approximately 8 feet. We made that both of those adjustments. I did leave a gray line showing where the original flag was, just for reference. We did add an erosion control line. That's the red line that you see, and a dark hatched line on the site plan, showing the limit of work as well as the erosion control following that limit of work, which included the tree removal that we were discussing at the previous hearing. And we've located the trees that are out on site flagged to be removed, that are within the 50-foot to 100 buffer area. As well as we did locate all of the trees within the area of the proposed work, regardless of what was going to be retained and what was to be removed, just for reference. And I think, and then of course, Sean was kind enough to prepare a landscape mitigation plan, which we also have in our package. And I let Sean speak to that as well, which goes to some removal of some green briar and some plantings of some native, additional native species in the area, which is also included within the limit of work, or the red line that you see on the plan. We did get a second letter from Steve over the weekend. It looks like he had a question for some of the wetland flags within the central BVW. It's over in the area of what we call the North Field. It's an active hay field. Did speak with Steve. I'm sure he'll comment as well this morning that we thought that that was something, if that's something the commission would like us to continue to review, we could do that. And what we were looking to do was possibly do that through a condition and provide an updated plan after that was done. But since that BVW area is would not be impacted at all by the proposed work, we are hoping to continue moving forward with the project. I think that's everything from my end. Sean, did you want to add anything about the landscaping plan?
I can. This is Sean Papich Landscape Architecture.
Sean, just before you go for 1 second,
Yeah,
Steve,
sure.
just want to check with Steve, if Steve Ivis is on tonight. Do we have? Steve?
Yes, I am, Frank.
And do you concur with Deb's comments on that?
I do entirely, yes.
Okay, great. Anything you want to add at
no,
this time? Well, if you follow
very-
with us.
Yeah, very, very briefly. I think that somebody's perhaps should go out and take a look at that short line in the North Hayfield and look at that a little bit more critically. That's all. Okay.
When you say somebody, someone from the commission?
No, it's not necessary. Brad and myself are fine, to go out there.
Okay.
And take a look.
Okay, great.
It's not a critical area for any of the construction. So I think Deb's suggestion to put it as a condition to be filled in after the close of the public hearing would be a fine thing to do.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, is that the hayfield on the road?
It's adjacent to the road, yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's also adjacent to that big wetland as well.
So Penny, if you were standing in Border Street looking at Michael Bleaky's home, it would be
Right.
to the right.
Yes.
To the right?
Yes.
To the left, before his house.
Wait a minute. Penny.
So if, do you have the existing conditions plan, Amy? Should be the first sheet. I think yes.
There we
So
go.
Michael's house is up front, and so it's the field to the right. I'm circling it with my mouse and you can't see it. I apologize, but so you see the two barns?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Directly to the right of them is the open field. And that
Yes.
in the BVW is what I believe Steve is wants to look at again, correct?
That's correct, Deb.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
Okay.
fact, you look at the, let me think, the barn that's to the top of the page, go directly to the right of that. And that's just a little area over there. Okay.
Got it.
oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm sorry, Sean, I didn't mean to
No,
cut
that's
you off.
okay. No worries, no worries. Do you want me to try to share my screen or does anybody else want? Well, somebody else already did it. You guys are very quick. Man,
Jen's
that's-
on it.
I tell you what, that's great. So what we did here was in response to the last hearing, where there was some question about when we discussed removing some portions of the greenbriers that were there in areas where there may be some foot traffic of the homeowners. And right to the edge of the lawn, where we were hoping to do is essentially restore that area that you see all with the textures and with the circles there, essentially is what it is. And what we're intending to do is revegetate with a pretty heavy dose of all of our favorite shrubs, kind of upland shrubs that are still native. Our clethro, which is out there on site right now, winterberry, bayberry, highbush blueberry. Those are all out there on site as we speak. And we intend to do more of those. And those are shown on this and illustrated on this plan. The other pieces or the other elements we were going to do in terms of plant material is low bush blueberry, or large swaths of that, as well as wavy hair grass, which is Dischamptia, and switchgrass, which is Panicum virgatum. So we're still going to use all the natives to really get a good solid ground cover all along the edges of the proposed work, right at the edge of the 100-foot inner riparian buffer, right in that area. And that was really the area we were discussing in the first hearing. It pretty much covers the landscape plan itself in terms of the plantings. There was some question as to whether or not Steve had mentioned in his comments that because we have a wall located between, I guess what we'll call the domesticated area, where we have a pool and a proposed lawn, on the left-hand side of the rear yard, he had asked whether or not we'd want to put a barrier on the right-hand side. And we really are not intending to do that. We think with the vegetation alone that we'll be able to do that. So we're just going to thickly plant that native border in hopes that we can keep that edge retained as is between the large piece of ledge on this drawing in the center of the screen to the shed area off to the right. And so it was one question you had. So I thought I'd at least react to that. Those were the major pieces that I think we were concerned about from the last hearing, and I certainly am available for any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess, does anybody else want to add anything before we go to members?
Actually, Frank, I would like to say that I think that approach is an okay approach since it's going to be heavily planted. And I do like the selection of the plant materials. I think it's excellent.
Great.
It makes sense. I will say that the winterberry enjoys having its feet wet most of the growing season. So that may be something that may not do perfectly well, but only time will tell.
Okay.
I'm pretty happy this year.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, right.
Well, we're having what I call a British summer.
There we go. Okay, thank you, Steve.
Sure.
So I guess to the commission. So Brendan and Penny and I, as well as Amy and Jen, had a chance to walk the site the other day. Penny, do you want to start?
The only thing that I'm a little bothered by with the plan is there seems to be an awful lot of terracing. Around the pool, I can understand that. But the whole back of the house and the garage, is that all a terrace?
It is intended, yeah, it's intended to be a terrace area right behind the house in garage, correct, and at the pool area.
What's in front of the garage? That looks like there's bricks there.
Well, that's essentially part of your driveway, really, your driveway and turnaround area. What we showed it with some texture. Those may end up being granite cobbles. They may end up being some sort of paver. So we really tried to make that auto court area that's large enough to turn around in and park in.
I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that there's nothing impervious around there, that the water can eventually get through, that it, is that all pavers around the pool and behind the house?
That's intended to be stone paving. It'll be on a crushed stone setting bed on chip stone.
Okay.
1/4-inch crushed stone base and chip stone setting bed, which is something we've gone to as a rule with really all of our paving, as opposed to the old method of compacted crusher run and compacted stone dust. So in essence, the water is draining through. We weren't, I don't know that we were required necessarily to have technically a permeable paving set up, but I do believe that almost all the paving ends up being substantially permeable because of the construction method that we've gone through over the last handful of years. I don't know if Deb wants to comment on that at all or no.
I would defer to you on the paver design,
Okay.
but that seems, what you described seems accurate. Just so you know as well, though, from a stormwater perspective, we took the conservative approach and assumed that all those areas would have limited groundwater recharge so that we could address it through stormwater, our stormwater BMPs on site, so that we have that conservatism built into the project itself.
Okay, and I have one other question. Am I seeing a path from the backyard through the plantings down to the river? Down to the stone wall?
Yes.
There's that white strip through the biggest part of your planting plan?
Yes.
Is that,
Go ahead, Deb.
No, yes, that's intended to be a walking path access for the residents.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought, but I was just wanted you to. Okay, I think I'm all set, Frank.
Okay, thank you. Brendan?
So that walking path, is there anything laid down there or?
Essentially, we were going to go to a crushed stone or a mulch path.
Okay, I was just figuring
Yep.
I'd follow up on that. Yeah, that I don't really have any other questions.
Okay. Richard?
Fortunately, I did not get out there the other day. I was not in town. But I like the changes that have been made since the last time we talked about it. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Doug?
I am recused from this.
Oh, that's right, too.
So
Um,
I don't get to ask any question.
Sorry.
Jen Foley?
Yeah, trying to read all of these lines to see what's inside the 100-foot buffer. Is this shed on the far right inside the buffer?
It straddles the 100-foot buffer, wetland buffer line, yes.
And then it looks like half of the pool is in the buffer as well.
That is correct.
Is there a reason that either of those weren't pulled back to just be out of the buffer entirely?
Just from a layout perspective, and allowing room between the residents and the restriction of the ledge, kind of sort of made it work out this way. We did work very hard to make sure that we were staying outside the 50-foot buffer altogether with all of the hardscape residential features.
I'm looking for there are so many lines on this.
It might help to be on Deb's plan. Yeah, that may help you because the color coding.
So the green is your 50 and 100 foot.
Okay, yeah.
And then so we worked very hard to keep everything out of the 100-foot riverfront. And I believe the closest we are with the retaining wall behind the pool is 65.8 feet from the salt marsh.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely see why the pool kind of has to be where it is. I wish the shed was a little different, just to like say that we were, where possible and limited from ledge out of the buffer. But I'm good for now, Frank.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, I'm okay for right now.
I got two members, right? Amy?
So, I mean, I think that this is our second time with this project, and we've had peer reviews for both stormwater by Horsley Britton and very thorough review by Steve Ivis. And I think at this point, we're at a point where we can probably close with some conditions. Appears to meet the requirements of the Wetland Protection Act and the Scituate bylaw.
Do we have anybody in the audience? Anybody raise their hand?
Seeing none.
Okay, do we know, is the owner on, Mr. Christensen, is he with us this evening? He's raised his hand.
Carl is on the call. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm unmuted now. Am I
Oh,
unmuted?
You are, we can hear you. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm on.
Thank you very much. So I had a couple of questions, Mr. Christensen, with regard to, maintaining the rest of the property and forestry program. We had, a hearing a little while back, and, you certainly expressed your desire to keep the property as natural, with the exception of the construction of the house and whatnot, and keep it in the 61A. And obviously the commission is very happy that this isn't 6 houses, it's 1 house, and to see a lot more of that built up. But the thing that kind of nags at me a little bit is sort of the same process went through when Mrs. Blakey built her house. They were protecting a lot of that property, and already we know across the street is trying to sort out what's going to happen there. So that, the property gets fragmented over time. There may be a day when you decide to sell this, and then someone else could do that again. They're within their right to do it. Just curious about your forestry program, your intentions to manage the woodlot. I don't know if you've talked to a forester, or if you've thought about how you're going to manage that property.
So I don't intend to forest it, and I'd like to leave it as natural as possible, and keep it as habitat for the wildlife. We're also trying to do something to protect the other side of the street, and I've committed some funds to do that. So my intention is to try to keep it as natural as possible, and minimize, what impact we have on the property there.
Okay.
And I can't, I can't say what'll happen, 30, 40 years from now if I'm under the ground and pushing up daisies myself. I don't know what somebody's going to do with it, but
sure.
But my hope is that my children and whoever else, maintains it the way that I would like to maintain it.
Okay. One of the reasons I'm asking, we the Conservation Commission have just started. We had a forestry program done on a lot of our land, and we're looking to how best to do that. And find me a big part of the discussion now around saving the forests, or trying to protect as much as possible, is because of carbon storage, and then trying to improve the environment through growth and things like that. And then walking through the woods, you see a lot of mature trees. There's also a lot of trees that have fallen, left on their own. They'll decay slowly, or if they're managed. But it's not. I personally don't think it's not unwise to look at what you have there and then decide, if you should make some other changes. You're taking out a good number of trees in order to construct this home and the driveway and all that sort of thing. And it would be great to know that the succession of those woods would support the removal of some of those trees. And just if you could think about that.
Yeah, I will for sure. And actually what I'd like to do with there's some beautiful old oak trees, and I'm going to try to take some of that and have it milled into material that we can use in the property and build and use it in the house that we build, to kind of remind people that we did take trees down to build the house. And and so my intention is to try to protect as many of the trees as possible.
Yeah, and I guess part of it is that the Blakey family has had this in a forestry program, and they've enjoyed some savings in their taxes over the years. There's a whole lot of different thoughts and methods of even harvesting the trees that you take down. What do you do with the stumps? What do you do with the underbrush? Things like that. In a more environmentally sensitive manner. We've been so used to taking these sites, the commission included, we did some clearing and stuff. And what it could is, we might have actually tried to save some of these things in a certain area and just let them break down slowly. And then again, in clearing this out, there's a lot of trees that are going to try to take these trees' place, and things will grow. But it might be good to look at this with a forester and say, geez, if I did some selective clearing possibly, or harvesting, you might in turn promote additional growth that would kind of offset some of the cutting of the trees, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And it'll make some of the better trees stronger. I think that's what, when I was out there with Sean and we looked at, some of the trees that we do want to remove. And I think Steve agreed that there's some that if we remove a couple of trees, then the big oaks will do better and create a better environment down there. So I will definitely do that. I mean, my intention is to keep this property as environmentally friendly as possible, and that's that's one of my goals. So we will definitely be looking at how we can promote strong forest growth and good natural plants, local plants growing in there, places for the animals to live.
Great. I appreciate that, and I do think if you spend some time with a forester, I'm assuming that the Blakeys are passing on their plan, but you'll want to be looking at that and try to. We noticed a lot of trees had fallen. Part of it's because they're building. There's only so much topsoil and a lot of ledge. Once they get so high, they have a tendency to topple anyways. But it would be. I think you have an opportunity to do some very thoughtful things there, and I'm glad to see as much of this get protected as possible. So thank you.
Good. And when Sean starts to develop the project, I'm sure he'll have some good ideas on what to do also to protect that.
Okay. Anybody have any additional comments?
All right. Yes, I've got Kathleen O'Donnell. I'm going to unmute her, and then Adam Brodsky after that. If we can keep our comments to like a minute, please, folks.
Okay. Thank you. So Kathleen?
Yes, my name is Kathleen O'Donnell. I'm counsel to the property owners, the Lions Head Trust. And I just wanted to clarify one thing, is that the property is assessed under Chapter 61A, which is agricultural, not forestry, which is 61. So it's not presently treated as taxed as forestry land. Don't believe that we have a forest plan. As I said, it's all been assessed under 61A.
That's correct.
Agricultural.
It seemed to me, though, we did have a couple of calls for some cutting when the Blakeys owned it, and we responded to that. And Mike Blakey came back to the commission with a plan.
As I said, I've looked at on the certificate of title and the tax, abate the tax assessment that we have on there, the agreement is 61A. I mean, maybe Mr. Blakey had, done a forestry plan, but technically, it's not required to have one because we're not assessed that way.
Right, and he did, I think Michael Blakey did get some permission to work down in the 100-foot zone. At least that's what he expressed to me, that he had permission to remove some trees down in that area. And so I don't know, I'm not an expert in it, but I also believe that it is agricultural land and that the business that they had there was in the hay fields and haying.
Okay,
Frank, if I may say a few words, this is Steve Ivas.
sure, Steve.
Carl, you may wish to consult at least with one of the consulting forestry folks for, and indeed, the long-term management plan for the property. There are some great forestry folks in Milton. I am the conservation agent in Milton. I was astounded at how well the land was evaluated in one particular case, and then how well the foresters themselves took down some of the trees. I mean, I can show you areas where you wouldn't know that there were trees growing literally next door to you as you were standing in the forest. There are some very, very good consultants and people who take down large trees without damaging other large trees. And it's really amazing to see, so that it might be useful to have a consultant at some point in the future to assist you with management of the property. That's all.
Okay, no, that's good input. Thank you, Steve.
Strongly suggest. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Frank, I
Thank you.
have Adam Brodsky's unmuted. Adam, you have a minute or so.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Walker. Mr. Snow, good evening, everyone. As you know, I'm an environmental and land use lawyer, and I represent Mr. Christensen in connection with this matter. And Attorney O'Donnell has clarified the regulatory status of the property. I simply wanted to remind you that it's presently in chapter. And if Mr. Christensen wanted to take it out of chapter, he would have to first offer it for sale to the town. So that's the assurance that you have that this property is going to remain in agricultural use. And we'll certainly sit down and evaluate other ways of preserving the property. We can convert it from agricultural to forestry and still keep it in chapter. And I just want to let you know, we'll have those conversations with Mr. Christensen, but I want to assure you that his intention is to preserve the property and to keep it into chapter. That was the real purpose of doing this transaction. So I can answer any additional questions you may have regarding that subject. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. I think I've got everything.
Okay.
Amy, anything else? Do we have anybody else interested?
No.
It appears no.
I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to close.
That's Penny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Richard. Yep. So all in favor, Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
So 0 Oceanside. On July 19th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. in the Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws. Yet in the application of the Town of Scituate for work related to repair an existing storm damaged municipal storm drain outfall at location 0 Oceanside Drive, Scituate. Abutters and their interested parties are invited to attend. Information and access to the meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website.
Frank, I've got Dave Smith from GZA and Sean McCarthy, town engineer, on the line for this one.
Great, thank you. Would like to go first.
Well, I'll do the introductions, I suppose. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Sean McCarthy with the engineering department, part of the Scituate DPW. The outfall that exists along Oceanside Drive across the street from Wampatuck, the town-owned parcel, the head of the outfall structure was damaged in Storm Riley back in March in 2018. We went through some iterations to alter the outfall structure and ultimately ended back with repairing in kind. So before you tonight, and David Smith from GZA, our consultant, to design the repair for this is on the line as well tonight to go through some of the construction and repair standards. But the repair of this is 75% reimbursable through FEMA. And I believe right now, most of the repairs will occur from the land side, and I'll let David go into that. David, if you want to take over from here.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, Sean indicated this was damaged in the March 2018 storm event. And the photographs that were included in the NOI application show the pictures out there that were taken, I believe, a year ago in March in 2020. And at the time we had done a survey, but this is an in-kind replacement. The prior structure had been reconstructed back in 1998, along with the adjacent seawalls and the access openings. At that time, it was just a pipe that extended out onto the beach, and that pipe was encased in cast-in-place concrete. And then the outer portion is a precast concrete head structure that meshed in with the cast-in-place. And then it has these outlets that extend out to the side. So we are doing the exact same thing as before, with the exception of touching any of the existing outfall structure coming back to land. The structure itself is set on 2 steel piles that are 12-inch diameter. The existing piles that are out there are going to be removed along with the existing damaged head structure, taken off-site, disposed of, and the new piles, same exact diameter, concrete filled, will be driven in the same locations. And then the precast head will be placed over those 2 piles, and then there'll be a cast-in-place transitional section that will go from the cast-in-place structure to the existing concrete structure that remains there now. It'll be a cast-in-place connection there. So it's very, very similar, if not almost the same design as it was done back in 1998. And we're just basically looking to put this back to restore the head structure. As far as construction, we are envisioning a crane to be placed in that vacant lot area on the landward side of the wall. It'll be a pretty good sized crane to be able to reach out to that distance to, number one, be able to remove the existing structures, but also to install the proposed structures. There may be some other equipment onto the beach, like maybe a jackhammer, maybe an air compressor to do some drilling. We don't envision any other equipment, but there may be a need for the contractor to bring a small excavator that would be lowered as needed by the crane to do maybe some grading work before the structure gets placed in its position with the piles, and then it'll be removed from the site. This location, as you can well imagine, given the site, is exposed directly to the ocean waves, and the contractor is going to have to work the tides and be very aware of the conditions that are out there. And it's going to be, kind of phased. So if it's a bad tide week, they're going to have to, postpone work and come back on a good tide week. And hopefully, we will schedule this work as far as any concrete work when the tide is receding, to maximize the amount of cure time before the tide does come back in. That's pretty much the summary of the project. We're looking to put this out to bid shortly here this summer for a fall construction to be able to fix that structure. And like Sean had said, it is FEMA funded. We did look at some alternatives with other than to put it back in kind, and we got some pretty significant pushback from FEMA, so we're just basically putting it right back to where it was, and hopefully it lasts another 20 years.
Okay. Before we jump to anyone else, so is it just the end of the piece that's being replaced, or is it part of the pipe going out there?
No, it's just the end piece. If you can see in that drawing, we have a square and sort of a hatched area. It's just that end precast structure that was there before, that is separated away and come apart from the piles that are there. The piles are corroded. They've been damaged, but those would be removed, and it's just the head structure. And then there's going to be a cast in place piece that basically connects the precast structure to the existing structure landward that remains.
Okay. Thank you. Richard?
What is the, how many work days? Forget about interruptions if they happen, but how many work days, how long a project is likely to last? Probably be about a 2-week duration. Again, they're going to have to work the tide. So if we have 1 week that's a down week, if they can't get it done within a week, then it's probably going to be a 4-week duration. Yeah, that's why I asked work days, not total duration. So I got it. Thank you. That's all I got for now.
Doug?
Just a couple questions for really more, just to help with my understanding that the discharge chamber itself. So what happens in there? It looks like, does it outlet water? I guess what I'm going to get around to, is there a cleaning action that has there? Does it collect sediment at all? It looks, I'm just trying to see if how in my mind that works. It looks like it discharges to the sides.
That's correct.
Okay.
It comes out along that, that structure that you see in the plan, from land coming out. And when it gets into that cast in place structure there, it exits to either side. It does basically a 90-degree turn on both sides. It's a little bit of a flared connection there.
Okay.
And then it discharges to the sides there. And there's I believe a steel grate, a galvanized grate that would go over there to be able to keep the beach cobble out.
And other debris and stuff like that. So it's like it's got maybe a 2-inch grate mesh or something like that, or I don't know if there's a detail on that. It will keep other things because during high tide this is submerged, correct?
That's correct.
So it'll keep some of the other debris from washing back in there. And is this collecting street drainage mostly from a street drain system?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so it's with typical catch basins that have sumps and things like that. So you're getting some silt removal. As this goes, before it even gets there, and then there's a little. Okay, I got it. Because
I don't think there's any.
Yeah, I get it.
There's nothing that cleaning that happens at this point. Anything that would have to be separated is further
upstream. Yeah, in it, the catch basin details. Yeah, but this would prevent it. With the grading, the idea, I guess, is would prevent it from getting clogged with, plastic bottle. It's a 30-inch pipe, so that you don't want people to go inside, and you don't want things like, plastic and stuff like that to get inside and clog that up. So that'll help keep that from happening. So, okay, I got it. So that's the end of my,
Okay,
and these are supported on steel piles, 20 feet deep. Okay, got it. Thank you.
thank you. Penny,
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Jen?
I'm good. It's nice to go after Doug.
Andy?
I'm good.
Brendan?
I have no additional questions.
Amy?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously it needs to be repaired and the project appears to meet the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act in the bylaw. Definitely a public benefit project. The DEP commented about additional possible permitting through the waterways and I think also for a 401 water quality cert. So, I mean, our permits, our orders are subject to all other applicable permits. So as necessary, those will be applied for by the town. But I think upon consultation with Sean last week, that the method, I think, of installation perhaps actually doesn't bump those other requirements, but actually maybe Dave could speak to that.
Sure. Yep. 401 water quality, it wouldn't trigger the filing under the regulations. We did reach out to the waterways, Chapter 91 folks. When this was done in 1998, there was no licensing that was required at that time. We have those files, but I did reach out again this time just to get concurrence, and mostly also because of the fact that it is a FEMA funded project and you have to show, you know, proof of all permitting. So they did reach back to me, and even though it's not going to require new licensing, it is considered a minor project modification to an unlicensed municipal project. So I've submitted that paperwork in. I'm just waiting to hear back. So that should be pretty straightforward. I have reached out to the Army Corps of Engineers, getting concurrence on an SV, self-verification filing, and I'm waiting to hear back on that as well.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience? No.
I'll make a motion to close.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that, Doug.
Doug. So all in favor, Richard?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for
Okay.
explaining all that.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
142 Humrock Beach Road on July 19th, 5:30 PM, the Town House, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code bylaws regarding the application of Gregory and Lisa Concilius, I guess, for work related to rotating and moving existing house and constructing a large addition and a dwelling at 142 Humrock Beach Road, Scituate. If others and other interested parties would like to attend, information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website.
Frank,
Yes.
I will have to recuse myself on this one.
Okay.
And Frank, we've got Paul Gunn from Morse Engineering on the line who will present this, but I just wanted to make a quick announcement to those who may have missed the beginning of the meeting where we already went through administrative items A through C. So that would include Alyssa. They've already voted on your orders. So I just don't want you to kill your night waiting for the end of the meeting. And anybody else who's on those lists of items of orders of conditions and requests for extension, those were already processed. So otherwise, Paul, done.
Okay. Paul, you want to give us a lowdown?
Yeah, absolutely. So as previously mentioned, my name is Paul Gunn. I'm a design engineer at Morse Engineering. I'm here to represent the applicant for the notice of intent at 142 Hummerock Beach Road. Currently, the site sits an existing 4-bedroom single-family dwelling and has frontage on Hummerock Beach Road, Dodge Road, and Newell Street. The low point on the site is to the south, sort of towards Dodge Road, and it's abutted by residentially developed properties. There are 2 primary resource areas on site. The entire site, or just about 95% of the site, is in a coastal dune area. And the entire site is also within a variety of FEMA flood zones, both VE and AE at differing elevations. The site does not lie in any Mass DEP Zone 2 or A, is not in a priority habitat zone, and is not in the Scituate floodplain or watershed protection district. So the majority of work for this project consists of moving, rotating, and lifting the existing structure, and then constructing a large 2-bedroom addition off of that structure. To accommodate this movement and addition, we are proposing a shed also be removed from the property, and that a septic tank that is currently existing on site be relocated closer to the existing leach field. Luckily, because the leach field, when it was installed in 2016, was over-designed, we do not have to touch it in order to accommodate the 2-bedroom increase in flow. So we are not proposing any work on the actual soil absorption field. I should also note that as of, I believe, May 26th, the house in its current location was approved by the Scituate Zoning Board of Appeals. In regards to GIS mitigation, during the work, the entire structure, both existing and proposed, is going to be brought into FEMA compliance in regards to elevations and lowest horizontal structural member. All housework is also being done in previously disturbed areas. None of the proposed housework is touching the existing vegetation on site. The only work that is proposing any alteration of the existing vegetation is the relocation of the existing septic tank closer to the leach field. But we are proposing that any vegetation that is disturbed be immediately replanted once the septic tank is in the ground, of course, given some leeway for the correct planting season. We are also proposing an erosion control barrier around the limit of work for the site. And I would also just like to note that we aren't proposing any changes in grade, any significant changes in grade to the property. So there shouldn't be any negative impact to the direction of floodwater. I believe that is all I have. I'll turn it over now to the commission for question and comment.
Okay, thank you. Doug?
You probably said this, the house is going to be on piles?
Yes, it will be on piles. First floor elevation is at around 20. That's an approximate number just to get the 3 feet of the lower structural member above that FEMA flood zone elevation, which the house is in a VE zone at elevation 16.
Gotcha. So you've got plenty of room there.
Yeah.
And so then the pipe, the septic pipe, I noticed the note there that needs to be pressure tested. Is that because it's going to drop from the house down one of the piles and down in, and so it's susceptible to flood. So that's to protect the pipe itself. Is that the reason?
That's one reason. Another is that it's actually crossing the existing water service.
Oh, it is. Okay. That's kind of what I was looking for. I didn't see that. There it is. Okay. I see that.
Yep.
So,
yep.
yeah.
So it's that faint line kind of going parallel across that T of the water service there. So that's the primary reason. Just that it's in a floodplain is kind of a secondary reason to do that.
Okay. Is it, and it's class 150, is that still plastic, PVC?
Yeah, I
or is
believe
that, so. It is. It's just beefy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Title V reg. If you're going across a building store with a water service, there's a kind of separation requirement, and also it has to have class 150 pressure.
Yeah, in my I was just thinking that because it's a velocity zone of the not, water damage breaking that pipe was my other concern.
Mm-hmm.
Just assuming that it's going to be secured to probably one of the piles.
Yeah, it will be.
And then it enters the ground at that point and goes down. So, okay. That's all I have, Paul. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Penny?
Yep. My only question, I don't think I heard this. Does the existing house, is that on piles or is there a foundation to be removed?
It is existing on piles,
Okay.
but it's going to be raised up with
Yes.
the proposed structure. But yeah, the existing house is on piles.
Okay. Okay. I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jen?
Yeah, I think I'm good for now.
Okay. Andrew?
I'm all set.
Brendan?
I'm also as well.
Amy?
I concur with Paul's presentation of the site project. Although it's the resource area is Barrier Beach in addition to coastal dune, right?
Yes, yeah, sorry.
Land subject to coastal storm flowage. ZBA did approve a 20% expansion to the structure. It's going to be elevated, no grade changes. We did get an abutter who contacted the office asking for the vegetation where there's any disturbance to be stored to the original condition, which we can put a special condition in for that, but it sounds like they were planning on doing that anyways. The EP had no comment. I think that we're, good to close here.
Amy, can I ask one more question? Paul, the FEMA maps, and I haven't got my head wrapped around how many of them changed, but we just got updated maps within the last few weeks. So we have 2021 zones. Did you check and make sure that the V16 still applies to this site?
Yeah,
I
saw
not,
they were
so.
they were updated on July 6th. I have not, but I am doing so right now. So that's loading. Nope, it has not changed.
It's 16 is still good. Okay.
Yeah, it's a combination of 15 and 16 right there at the corner of the lot, and then 13 further in. Yeah, so that has remained unchanged.
Okay. No, all right. Thanks.
Yep, no problem.
Do we have anybody in the audience? Jen says, could you raise your hand if you want to speak? Click on the little hand.
Raise hand feature on the bottom of the Zoom.
I see Patty Stewart is physically raising her hand in the screen.
Patty, do you think you could click on that?
Patty's unmuted. Or should, yep.
Go ahead.
All right. I only wanted to say on the plan, it says that the vegetation would be restored with beach grass. And my question is, I sent photos for you to look at. It is not beach grass now close to Newell Street, where this lot abuts Newell Street is heavily vegetated. And that's why it's still there, because the water does come up from the ocean. And we want to be sure that that height remains the same. And so if it is at all disturbed, we like it to be replaced with something substantial to hold that land in place.
Do you know if there's any proposed disturbance for that area?
There's no need for it.
So we are proposing, I am familiar with the vegetation she's referring to, and she's right, that might be revised to something a little bit sturdier than beach grass. Right now it's a kind of low thorny vegetation. We don't, we try not to disturb it, but unfortunately due to the placement of the existing water line and gas line, it's, and the fact that we're not touching the existing leach field, that's sort of the only place for the septic tank to go.
There's a septic tank going to be.
Okay.
On the Dodge Street end?
Yeah, but the septic tank is, as far as I can see, in the Dodge Street end of that T. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's right about in the center, and then the leaching field extends down to the Dodge Road.
Right. And so there won't be too much going on as it abuts Newell Street.
Oh, no, yeah. That entire upper portion of that, I guess if you're looking at it like a T, the top portion of that towards Newell Street is not being disturbed at all.
Excellent. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you. Do you know, just in looking at this, it's so tight on either side of the property line. Do they have permission from someone to access that, or how are they going to try to do that? I mean, the distance from the silt sock to the buildings, the addition is really tight. And so this house is being raised, or it's going to be remodeled and then added on to?
Yeah, so it'll be relocated and then added onto, and the entire, both the existing is being raised to match the proposed elevations in compliance with FEMA. I don't believe at this time that they've spoken to that neighbor. I believe that a butter there would be Curly. We can push that. We're pretty confident in this property line rotation, so we could push that erosion control barrier out another foot or two, and also speak to the neighbor. But the existing septic system, I think for the most part, was designed to be parked on, so there could be some lighter vehicular traffic over it. Although, I mean, most of it won't be, just due to the constraints of the existing vegetation. But I don't have any information on whether or not that a butter hasn't spoken to.
We have a situation where they're trying to do some construction and it's so tight, and just looking at the side of the house where the deck is, so that would be to the north. I don't know. I guess that's their issue, but.
Excuse me, Frank.
Yes.
Just as a point of information, I am recused, but I believe Mrs. Curley has passed away, so I'm not sure who is in charge of that abutting house.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to speak to this?
No.
Okay.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I make a motion to close.
A second?
I'll second that, Doug.
That was Doug. So all in favor? Richard, you're reclused, right?
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. Okay. 146 Newell Street, 146 Central Ave. On July 19th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetland hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code bylaws regarding the application of Michael Gibbons for work related to raising and reconstructing a dwelling on wood-driven piles, a single-family dwelling located at 146 Central Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on the agenda posted on the website.
Frank, I have Paul Marabito on the line here to present this one. Paul.
Paul, can you present? Richard, do you mind just handling stuff with something? I got to grab one quick call. So if you just keep at it, and then if you want to go down through the start with Doug or Penny or something like that.
Paul, go ahead.
Thank you.
Paul, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. Okay, thank you. The applicant owns the existing dwelling at 146 Central Ave. The site is also bordered to the east by Atlantic Drive. The existing house is a solid concrete foundation with a lower level. The plan is to raise the entire structure and reconstruct a new structure in the location shown on the plan. The new house would be 32 feet wide and 36 feet in depth. The width of the new house is slightly larger than the existing house, but the depth of the house from front to rear is will remain the same. The proposed house will also be, have some wraparound open decks as shown on the plan. The foundation will be placed on a wood-driven pile foundation. The top of the piles will be at a minimum elevation of 17.1, as the locus is located in FEMA flood zone VE elevation 15. The site is on a barrier beach and a coastal dune. There are no proposed grade changes to the property. By way of information, the Zoning Board of Appeals did approve the project at their public hearing last Thursday evening. We do show a silt barrier around 3 sides of the property. We have submitted the structural plans as well. And I haven't received, we do have a file number for the project with no additional comments from the DEP. I think with that, I'll end my presentation and answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Paul. Let's change the order up a little bit. Andy?
No, I don't have any questions on this one right now.
Thank you. Brendan?
Sorry, I didn't unmute. Yeah, don't have a question yet.
Okay. Doug?
Paul, what flood zone is this in here?
It's VE 15.
It is VE.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it might have been on the edge of an A zone. So, and this is just going to be elevated above that.
Yes, the top of the pile is 17.1, because the state building code adds 2 feet to the height of the pile over and above what FEMA requires.
Oh, 2 feet now. Okay.
It's 2 feet.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, you know what I was, that's good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Amy?
Yeah, so concur.
I'm sorry. I missed Jen. I'm sorry. And she was after Doug, which she likes. I apologize. Jen?
I'm good, but thank you for coming back just in case.
You missed me.
I'm sorry?
You
No,
missed
I didn't
me.
forget you, Penny. I just was waiting for the best for last.
But I don't have any questions. It looks pretty straightforward to me. Thank you.
Now, Amy, I'm sorry. Oh, let me stick something in before Amy says anything. Only one question, Paul. So the entire building is going to be raised before anything else is done and removed?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Amy.
I'm going to be short. I mean, it's a project that we want to see, you know, to be elevated in compliance with FEMA. This is a pretty vulnerable area. Wood piles. I mean, I think it looks good, and it appears to meet the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate bylaw. So I think we could take comments and butters and possibly close.
Is there anybody, thank you, Amy. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to raise their hand?
No,
Seeing none.
then I'll make a motion to close.
Penny made a motion to close. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Doug? Thank you. Jen?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
And Richard, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you. Thanks, Richard, for jumping in there. On July 19th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. in the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetland hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of South River Marina Realty LLC for work related to replacing existing revetment, constructing pier support a deck and a ramp and relocation of existing boat ramp at location at 21 Central Ave, Scituate. Abutters and interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on the agenda posted on the town website. And who do we have?
Hi, we
presenting?
have Adam Brodsky appears to be raised his hand, and also Tom Liddy, who I'm going to unmute once I find his name. Adam, you can start if you want.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Walkie. And you should also have Ken Duval, who's the manager of the LLC. And good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky, and as you know, I'm an environmental and land use attorney, and I represent South River Marina Realty LLC. And Mr. Duval is the manager of the LLC. And I'm here this evening with Tom Liddy, our professional wetland scientist with Lucas Environmental. And I should have mentioned, we also have David Ray. He should also be on the call. He's our professional land surveyor with Nantasket Survey. And as Mr. Snow said, this is a seaward facing project. We're proposing to replace a failing bulkhead, construct a new pile supported pier and gangway to lead to the existing marina. As part and parcel of that, we're proposing a new public walkway along the shoreline, and we're proposing to relocate the existing boat ramp, which is located on our property, as well as a portion of Webster Street, which is a private way. And so we're relocating that, despite the fact that it's on private land. It will continue to be made available to the public as it has historically been. Tom will take you through the various wetland resource areas. I think we've checked every single box on this application, and the project is designed to meet all performance standards. This is the beginning of a kind of lengthy permitting process. This bulkhead project will require MEPA review, a Chapter 91 license under the Public Waterfront Act, a 401 water quality certification, as well as a authorization under the Army Corps General Permit. We've got to get going on this because of the state of the bulkhead. We don't want it to fail any further, and we've got to begin our permitting process. So with that said, I'll invite Tom to explain the project in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Just again, for the record, my name is Tom Liddy, professional wetland scientist from Lucas Environmental. As Adam indicated, we're here requesting an order of conditions to conduct various site improvements at the South River Yacht Yard at 21 Central Ave. There are basically three major components to this project. One is to replace and reconfigure the existing bulkhead line. Two, to construct a new pier-supported decking and ramp to provide access between the existing docks and slips in the boatyard. And three, to relocate the existing public boat ramp. Jen, is there any way to bring up the notice of intent that we submitted, the actual PDF document?
No.
No? Okay. All right. I'll try to explain exactly where this is without any of the locus figures or photographs. This site's located at 21 Central Ave. The site's, as you can see in this proposed condition plan, the site is bound by Webster Street to the north, which runs east to west. Central Ave, just a little off screen, Central Ave runs north to south. And Marshfield Ave runs west to east as well, south of the property. And obviously the South River is off to the west there, which is obviously a tidally dominated waterway. In terms of what's out there now, there's a large two-story building in the northeast corner there. There's a large parking area, which is primarily used for parking as well as storage of boats during the winter. Wetland resource areas, as mentioned, are all associated with the South River. We have land subject to coastal storm flowage, land under ocean, coastal beach, coastal bank, land containing shellfish. This is a perennial river, so we have a 200-foot riverfront area which extends onto most of the property. And this entire area is identified as a barrier beach. And obviously the 100-foot buffer and will extend off the limit of the coastal resource area. So the in the NOI document, I don't know if you have that, but we have a number of photographs which shows the existing bulkhead. The most critical area is in that northern portion just below Webster Street. In this location, the bulkhead consists of various materials, sheet pile, stacked wooden ties. There's a lot of wooden piles out there. And as you continue, there's also, if you can, I wish I could point it out to you, but there's a boat lift that's in disrepair up in the northern portion. The bulkhead kind of zigs and zags as you head south. As you head south towards Marshfield Ave, the bulkhead transitions into stacked concrete blocks, which run generally parallel to the shoreline. As you head further south, the existing bulkhead juts landward, as you can see down the bottom there. The main goal with this bulkhead project is primarily to, one, replace a failing structure, especially up in the north corner, but to also provide, a uniform configuration and orientation, which runs, kind of in this more so in a straight line parallel to the coastline. And as you can see in this proposed conditions plan, the bulkhead line will just do that. There'll be, a right angle up in the northern west corner. As you head further south, we tried to keep it, as close as we could to the existing bulkhead line. The new one would be within 5 feet of the existing bulkhead. And as you head south, you can see it juts into the east a little bit. And again, it's just to mirror the existing shoreline that's there. We anticipate the bulkhead will be installed from the land side, so there would not need to be any construction equipment or vehicles in the river itself, and the sheet piles will be driven by a pile driver, and then that area in between the new bulkhead and the existing bulkhead would be, all that material would be removed and filled with solid fill. I don't know if you can zoom in, we'd like to also reconfigure the wooden decking. We'd like to provide a new wooden deck. It's roughly 1,600 square feet, to provide a new ramp, and also provide a new ramp down to the existing slips and docks. And lastly, with reconfiguring the bulkhead line up by Webster Street, we'd like to remove the existing boat ramp and just reorientate it so it's all entirely within the Webster Street right of way. This new boat ramp would consist of a 13-foot wide with a 6-inch thick precast concrete slab overlying a crushed stone bedding. Another feature of this, and again, as Adam mentioned, this is actually a public boat ramp, though it's on private property, and that would continue to be the intended use. And what's shown in this plan in a darker gray color is actually a 10-foot wide sidewalk, which would be able to provide access to the shoreline from Webster Street to the public. And this would be a requirement of the Chapter 91 program. So due to the nature of the work, is obviously new structures within resource area. The reconfiguration will alter approximately 413 linear feet of coastal bank, over 2,700 square feet of coastal beach, as well as impacts to land subject to coastal storm flowage and riverfront. As Adam mentioned, this will be a lengthy permitting process with a number of different regulatory agencies, specifically the MIPA office. We'll be filing an environmental notification form, Chapter 91 waterway license, 401 water quality certificate, and authorization by the Army Corps. So I just wanted to give a brief overview of the whole project. There's a lot here. But we wanted to start locally, meeting with the Conservation Commission prior to initiating review with the other state agencies. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to the commission to see if you have any questions.
Okay. Is there any cross sections with this plan?
So sheet 4, if you go to sheet 4, there is a cross section.
Got it. Okay. Who wants to field this one first? Jen?
Thanks, Frank.
I think we'll have a chance to go around a little, so don't be too.
Yeah. There is a whole lot happening here. I didn't hear any, or maybe I missed it, proposed mitigation as part of all of this work.
As far as mitigation goes, the site's pretty much completely developed right up to the shoreline with the existing bulkhead. We do anticipate, time of year restriction for performing work in the river, which typically runs, February 1st to July 15th to avoid impacts to fisheries. But in terms of mitigation, there's not a formal mitigation package just due to the the nature of the work.
Okay.
Adam? Do you want to let Adam address that as well?
Thank you. I muted myself and apparently got kicked out. The project meets performance standards, so there's no technical requirement for mitigation, so to speak. With that said, we're providing lateral access along the shoreline by creating a public walkway to facilitate public access on the site. And again, we're improving the existing boat ramp to make that much safer and available to the general public. As you'll see, under its existing orientation, it's kind of difficult to make use effectively. By reorientating it and making it parallel to Webster Street, it allows members of the public to travel down Webster Street and trailer the boats directly into the water. The existing boat ramp is not in good shape. And so again, the desire here is to maintain that public benefit despite the fact that it's located on private property. So I would take the position that that is additional mitigation for the project, although not technically required. And I'm not going to mute myself again. I'll just be quiet so I don't get kicked off again. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Jen, I'm going to keep moving for now. You can come back to that. Andy?
Yeah, I guess just when it comes to the wooden deck, it's much larger than the one that exists now and is sort of being moved. What's the sort of design use or reason for that new design?
I guess the intent of that, part of that decking is actually the 10-foot wide public access. So it's more so just to be able to not only provide the access, but be able to more easily and readily get up and down the ramp there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, and it's also a safety issue. We need a safe landing place before people travel down the gangway to get to the marina, and so this allows them to safely sort of stage what they need for the day there, gets them out of the parking lot, which we really don't want people unloading cars in the parking lot. This way, they have the ability to stage for the day and safely get down to the watershed.
Got it. Thanks. I'm good, Frank.
Brendan? Thank you. Brendan?
Yeah, what's supporting that deck? Is that shown somewhere? Or is that just on, like, is,
Yeah, so the deck will be supported by piles. There's a detail on that on sheet 4. But they'd be, the typical 12-inch diameter wooden piles. So it's not a solid fill structure. It'd be supported by wooden piles.
okay. That'll be it for now.
Okay, thank you. Penny?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the notice of intent and the photographs. And especially some of the photographs, this needs work. It and hope the public access, because that's always been a bone of contention. I know when the condos were built, it would be nice to have that redone on Webster Street where it belongs and so forth. No, I think it is a good project. Thank you.
Doug?
I don't think I have really any questions. One thing about these projects is there are a lot of set of eyes that go on these things like they have suggested. There's a lot of permitting involved that goes beyond us. A lot of this deck and wall construction is going to be in the waterways outside of the with the widening of that deck there a little bit. So all of that's going to be part of the licensing process. So
Lots of people.
yeah, I have a lot of confidence that the structural integrity, which would be my only concern really, is going to be well looked at with the pilings and the spacings of the tiebacks and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really have any questions for them that go beyond what has already been asked. So I'm good.
Mr. Aberg, just to let you know, this is Adam Brodsky. We've consulted extensively with DEP Waterways regarding the project to make sure that it was, one, feasible, but designed in accordance with their regulations. And so we can't even file a Chapter 91 license application now until we actually have an order of conditions and a MIPA certificate in hand on account of the COVID restrictions. So I just wanted you to know and to assure the board that we're not doing this in a vacuum. We spent months working with DEP to design a project that minimizes impacts and complies with their requirements.
Sure. Thanks, Adam.
Richard?
First of all, as a Humrock resident, something like this is needed. So that part's easy. But a couple of quick questions. I'm assuming that the walkway or the whatever way you want to call it, the deck is meant to conduct the people using the area to be available for them to walk out toward the beach via Webster Street, but not as an open public ramp to go all the way through for anyone. Am I correct about that?
No, Mr. Harding, this will be a public access walkway along the shoreline in compliance with the Chapter 91 requirements.
All right.
This will be available to the general public. As you likely noted, there is a connection to Webster Street. At present, there's no real connection to Marshfield Ave. You'd have to walk down through the parking lot to get access to it, but there's nothing that we can do about that. When they reconstructed the bridge, that got cut off. So, but I presume it will be subject to the same requirements of any public walkway under Chapter 91, open dusk to dawn, subject to reasonable regulations. We don't want people skateboarding across. We don't want things of that sort. And I do want to mention, and Mr. Duval reminded me of this, which is one of the other purposes of the large deck area. Is to ensure handicap accessibility. So actually this gangway down to the float system will be ADA compliant. And so that was a critical point that I missed. So not only are we providing public access, but we're providing appropriate public accommodations for handicapped persons if they want to make use of the marina.
Adam, that's all good. I guess my question is, the way it's looking there, you're correct. There's no easy way to come up to Marshfield Avenue, but would people not be having to cross private property then to go across the parking lot in order to get access to the ramp?
Yes, I don't think that's going to be practical. It's something we need to talk about. But the requirements under Chapter 91 is to provide access along the shoreline where feasible. So again, you can come down Webster Street if you want to walk across the property on the public walkway, and I guess you could turn around and finish your walk. But it's providing safe public access where no public access as a practical matter really exists presently. And we'd like to encourage that to the best we can, given the site conditions.
Okay. And the only other thing, and I know it's been mentioned 2 or 3 times, but I just want to make sure, because I know there are a number of people in that area will raise it ad infinitum. The public ramp on Webster Street, whatever condition it's in, will still remain available to people to use.
That's correct. The intention here is to spend private money to rehabilitate this boat ramp for the benefit of the public.
Okay. And the only other question I have is the access to the parking lot going to be limited to access from Marshfield Ave, as it most of the time is now?
We're not changing any of the access. This project that's being presented is only along the bulkhead, so nothing else is changing on the upland portion of the site.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Amy?
You said me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, all in all, I would say it looks like a positive project, and that the revetment is, I mean, up to a lay person, it appears it needs work. Certainly, you know, looks like a positive project. It's pretty complicated, honestly, and you know, gives me good assurance that it will get significant additional review through the ENF, MEPA, Chapter 91, Army Corps, and so on. I am concerned, you know, due to the complicated nature of the area down there and access, about the boat ramp and putting the public access boat ramp on private property on the private way, and whether or not access has, you know, legal access has really been established at this point, or it's just in the works. I'm also have got concern, and I think that, you know, this certainly needs review from other town officials, like the planning board and perhaps DPW and select board should be weighing in on any exchange of public benefit space. So before we close, I definitely would suggest that the applicants seek out the opinions from those different boards. And also, you know, fairly also concerned with the zoning change that was just recently approved and the likelihood of change of use on the property. And so if you combine a change of use with this rehab of the public access revetment ramp, so on, then you're really having what would be termed a segmented project. So I think that we'd really want to consider the environmental impacts of all of the possibilities here. I don't know. And then I also come to mind, I think of, you know, whether a peer review would be, you know, considering peer review for just for coastal engineering. I mean, I'm not so much concerned with Lucas's, you know, evaluation and their determination of the resource areas as the implementation of the replacement of the revetment and coastal engineering perspective.
Is that it?
So, Mr. Snow, can I just briefly address a couple of those concerns?
Sure.
Sure. So we're more than happy to talk to whomever you think is appropriate to speak with. There's no exchange of public space here. The boat ramp's presently on private property. It's going to remain. You know, I don't know how that ultimately came about, but we're going to continue that condition. But, you know, we're happy to speak to the select people, but we don't need permission necessarily from the Board of Selectmen to do this. We didn't think that this triggered site plan review for planning board. We're not proposing any building. There's no change of use proposed, and there's no alterations of the upland portion of the site, which would generate traffic or anything along those lines. So we didn't consider a site plan review as necessary. At some point in the future, it would be great to consider something different, but at present, this is a boatyard and marina, and for the foreseeable future will remain a boatyard and marina. And if ultimately there are plans to redevelop the property, we're going to have to review that in great detail with all of the boards, including the Conservation Commission, including the Planning Board, potentially the Zoning Board of Appeals, depending upon if we need zoning relief. With respect to peer review, we'll defer to the Commission. I just would remind you that this project from an engineering point of view is going to be reviewed by the waterways engineers and Department of Environmental Protection. We're going to be soliciting public comment from all the state agencies through the MEPA process, and then also will be reviewed by the project engineers of the Army Corps. Again, this is going to be reviewed numerous state and federal agencies with specialty in coastal engineering. If ultimately that's the judgment of the commission, obviously we'll go along with that. But I just want to assure you that this is going to be reviewed by other professional engineers and other agencies.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Do we have anybody with their hands up? Anybody in the audience at all for this? No?
Nope.
Surprisingly, no.
So I'm looking at that detail sheet. I see some sort of basic plans for the deck to be constructed. Is the revetment being rebuilt as well?
So just to be clear, there's no revetment. We're proposing a sheet pile bulkhead, Mr. Snow. And either Tom or David Ray can explain to you the construction methodology.
Okay, but I'm not, do I see any cut sheets? Maybe this one.
There is an elevation that shows the proposed sheet pile bulkhead with the.
Got it.
And
yeah.
from it again, I'm just a lawyer. It's a complicated project in that there are multiple wetland resource areas, but the physical project is pretty straightforward. We're just driving steel sheet pile vertically and anchoring it with dead men behind it, just like they do everywhere. So it's technically not a particularly sophisticated project, but we recognize that there are numerous wetland resource areas to take into consideration.
Right. And Frank, can I just, I think I forgot to say this too, but with this project, it's an excellent opportunity to get improved conditions such as stormwater runoff and, thinking along those lines. I know the NOI did check the stormwater requirement box, but I did not see an analysis or an evaluation of how that was going to be improved by this project. But I certainly outfalls would come into play and stuff like that. So we seem to be missing some information still.
So Ms. Walker, we had consulted with you previously about the need for a stormwater report. And I thought we were in agreement that there was no need since we're not changing in the upland conditions. Again, at some point in the future, if there's going to be a project that's changing the upland conditions, that's going to trigger stormwater review. But I thought we were in agreement that there was no need as part of the bulkhead repair to do a stormwater report. But again, I could be mistaken. And Tom, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't recall that either. And you know what? And maybe I just performed a more detailed analysis, but that comment does come to mind.
Okay, this is Tom Liddy. We can go through our emails, but and whether that box was checked off, but typically where, you know, this project isn't really changing any flow characteristics, any change of rates of runoff, any increase of, you know, TSS or anything like that. This is primarily, you know, water dependent structure reconfiguration. So we didn't include a stormwater analysis or anything like that because there's just no change in upland conditions. And as Adam mentioned, you know, if there's a project down the line, that would be fully subject to the state stormwater standards as well as the local bylaw. But we can, Amy, we can, you know, work through that, you know, after the meeting.
Again, we asked if there was anybody in the audience, or I don't think we had anybody, right?
No.
I mean, Amy's raised a fair number of concerns, as well as some of the other, a few of the members. It's a fairly large undertaking. I'm sure that Mr. Liddy and Mr. Ray have done a pretty thorough job of putting together what they think is needed, as well as Mr. Brodsky. I'm just like to make sure we cover our bases here.
Frank, does it make sense to continue this and get some more background on some of the other areas? It sounds like there's definitely some things from Amy's perspective.
So, Mr. Snow, we're happy to continue the public hearing. We're not trying to force anything through the process. I just want to make sure that I've got a working list of things, that additional information that you want to provide. Again, we'll consult again with Ms. Walkie with respect to stormwater. I thought we had addressed that issue, but that's not a problem. And I'm looking at your stormwater regulations as you speak. I don't think we trigger anything under the local stormwater project, under local regulations, but what additional information would you like us to provide? I'm just going to make some notes.
I think I would start with legal access.
That's always been there, though.
Yeah,
Demonstrating that you have that.
So it's all legal access. So I don't understand what that means, Ms. Walkie. The boat ramp has always been in that location on a private way. I can't explain how it got there. We're not going to do anything to change it. And with respect to the public walkway, once a Chapter 91 license is issued, it creates essentially an easement for the benefit of the public, subject to regulations under the Chapter 91 license. So that public access is guaranteed under the Chapter 91 license. So again, we're happy to provide any additional information. I just don't know what more we can provide with respect to.
Well, Adam, so I guess I'm talking about the ramp. So the ramp being moved from the property onto Webster Street, which is not property that the applicant owns, right?
No,
so
we actually do. We do.
Of it, but you know what? I guess I'm not just a lawyer, so I don't really know the answer. But maybe we should consider legal counsel on this, just to make sure. And DPW consult.
I'm happy to speak to Ms. Amara. Just to be clear.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that.
Can we have one person speak at a time, please? Adam, why don't you finish answering the question?
Sure. So Webster Street is a private way. The property owners on either side of Webster Street own to the center line. So we own to the center line of Webster Street. The majority of the boat ramp is going to be located on our side of Webster Street. It is going to encroach slightly over the center line. And so we did get permission from the condominium association that owns the other half of Webster Street. And I think we provided that information to you. So they're on board. If you don't have that letter, we'll provide it to you, but we have written permission to follow the notice of intent from the condominium association. And so we have permission from the owners in the fee of Webster Street to do the project. And again, there's no objection to the public using the boat ramp. So, and as I mentioned, I can't explain how that all happened. It's been there ever since I've lived in Scituate. So we're just continuing the same unusual condition.
Frank, we can come up with a list to provide Mr. Brodsky on what we're looking for. And just one comment with respect to the stormwater. So although it may not trigger Scituate stormwater bylaw, what I'm speaking of is the NOI, and just this would be a good time to evaluate and consider ways to improve the discharge. I mean, so there's discharge of untreated stormwater and runoff that's going into the river. So if there's any time to improve it, this might be a good time to take a look at that. So I think that those, that type of analysis is not provided. So those types of things.
Okay, I guess it is a substantial project and there's a lot of different pieces moving here. I don't disagree, Amy. I think what the applicant's asking for is a concise list of the things that we want them to provide and let them have the opportunity to discuss those with us so that this doesn't keep going back and forth. If there's a number of things that we would like to have from them and we were at a meeting where the members are here, we can agree or disagree on whether those things are needed. Certainly, if you're talking with either Adam or Tom, and you have a list of the things that you'd like, and then they can take a look at it and see where they are with those. I agree with you. It'd be nice to see a little bit of cleanup. I can't tell from this plan where anything runs off the site right now. I've been there a few times, and I'm sure improvements like this are going to be beneficial, but it would be nice to know how some of those things are dealt with. But I think it's important that we give them a list, let them have a chance to take a look at it. If they disagree with some of the pieces, we'll have to field that. But rather than go to meeting and tack something else on, I don't think is where we want to go. So how much time would we need to, if we continued this, to put together what you're looking for information and to bring that back together? Or do you want to try to continue this to the next meeting so that we agree on the scope?
Well, obviously, if you're looking for a stormwater report, that's going to take some time to do. We did find the email. It's an email exchange that I had with Ms. Walke on April 26, where we confirmed that we did not need stormwater review. But it really depends. It really depends upon the list of information. So if I might suggest, I'm selfishly taking a week of vacation the first week in August, and I don't know when your next meeting. Are you meeting? When are you meeting next in August, please?
First Monday.
That's
Yeah,
all.
although that meeting is full, so it would be the second meeting. We're having 3 meetings in August.
So we could be ready for August
30th.
August 16.
Yeah.
So I guess, Adam, what I'm thinking is do you want to continue to the 16th to develop a list of things that need to get done, or is that something you think you can do ahead of time?
If I might suggest, if you could continue us to August 16th, I was hoping that you could provide me with a list this week of what you're looking for from us. And then if for some reason I don't think we can get it done by the 16th, I'll let you know and ask, that be continued to the end of the month. But it really depends upon the list.
And I can give you a short list. I'm thinking you guys need to consult with other town boards and committees to make sure that their input shouldn't be necessary at this point, especially since it impacts current public use. So I would include that to be DPW, town administrator, and planning board, and possibly zoning board of appeals. At least to look at stormwater upgrades and improvements as just, I guess, whether you want to call it mitigation or just some kind of like positive impact from the project. And then also demonstrate legal use and public access for being able to move the ramp into Webster Street, which is a private way, and how that would actually happen. We do not have the, from Russell, Clark, or the condo association, we don't have, information from them, which establishes that right, or from the town. I don't know if the town needs to approve it or not. And then also, I guess that the board really the commission should decide whether or not, maybe we'll come back with a recommendation on whether we think a peer review would be needed. I mean, I'm on the fence on that one. So I don't know. We have on other projects of this nature, we've rolled in coastal engineers, but I agree, it's going to get extensive review by the state commissions. So.
Thank you. If I might, could we get a decision tonight from the commission regarding peer review? Because given everyone's schedules, if that's the case, if you ultimately decide you want a peer review, depending upon the expertise, it may take weeks or if not months to get someone on board. And so that would probably drive the lead time more than anything else.
So Amy, if there were a peer review, what would we be asking the peer reviewer to look at? Are we asking to look at the sheeting and the methods of this? Are we asking for the resource area? I'm not quite sure.
No, I was thinking the coastal engineering analysis and an overall review of the notice of intent with respect to resource areas and just, it's a complicated project. We don't usually see projects like this that have so much going on. So, I'm thinking an engineer that's got coastal marina type experience. It is, as Adam said, that is a specialty, I would say. And it's something like this, you get a shot to do it, right? This is not going to be something that they'll be doing again anytime in the future. So we want to make sure that the approvals that we give are accurate and appropriate and, methods are right, that type of thing.
And then, we've been back and forth on stormwater, and the applicant's saying that they don't trigger stormwater for the scope of what they're doing. I can't remember where everything flows here, but I'm assuming that this sort of just sheets towards the river.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So are we asking them to improve on that, or?
Well, so, there's.
Which I'm not opposed to, but I'm just, what do we have? What are we?
Well, I think we're talking about two different things. There's the Scituate stormwater bylaw and there's the DEP stormwater handbook. And so the NOI checks the box stormwater, yes. So, the project triggers it in that way. And I'm not an engineer, so I'm not exactly sure how that box came to be triggered. And I don't think it's necessarily the same review that we would typically do, with other stormwater projects. But again, I'm I'm not sure. So that would be the consult to make sure that, we're looking at the right stuff.
So Ms. Walker, Mr. Snow, I don't know whether we checked the wrong box on the NOI form, but again, we were clearly under the impression that we didn't trigger stormwater review because we're not changing any of the upland stormwater characteristics, or in fact, we're not changing any of the stormwater characteristics of the site. I think you're going to find us a bit reluctant to start doing work in the uplands to address stormwater for a bulkhead project. And so I just want to set expectations. If and when the upland portion of the site is changed, we understand clearly that stormwater will have to be reviewed. And if it's not in compliance with the stormwater regulations in the Wetlands Protection Act, it's going to have to be updated. But I've not done any stormwater review for any of my marina bulkhead projects prior.
Did you say David Ray was on the line?
David Ray should be here. Can you see him? Let me just check participants.
Yeah, I see him.
I guess my question to David in driving the sheeting, is this going to redirect water from the site?
This is David Ray with Nantasket Survey Engineering. No, this will not redirect into the river. It's going to basically work exactly as it's working today, but just with a more solid system holding it in place. Did you hear me on that?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Frank, I'm just looking at the notice of intent where Form 3 checks box 7A that yes, stormwater management standards, DEP stormwater management standards have been triggered. So that's just what I'm looking at. And it could be an error, which is fine. I mean, that happens. I mean, I could ask for clarification from somebody. Maybe I could ask the state to take another look at their comments to see if that is something that they're looking for, or we should be looking for.
And we're happy to correct the NOI form if it's in error. But if I can just get back to the peer review consultant, again, I don't know whether this is something the town engineer could look at. Again, the engineering aspect of this is pretty straightforward, and maybe David Ray can comment on that. I hate to say it's not rocket science, but there's not a lot going on. It's a big machine driving sheet piles until refusal and the installation of anchors. But David, can you explain, or did you get, looks like David may have been muted again.
David Ray with Nantasket Survey Engineering. Yes, this is not rocket science. Sheet piles have been common practice for probably upwards of 100 years. I really don't know much else to say on it. It's like Adam has said, it's a large machine. It's going to take a series of piles that are long and linear, drive them down until they hit refusal, and then clean up and backfill behind them. The idea behind the sheet piles is to, rather than try to tear apart a revetment wall and cause all kinds of wash going into the river, the sheet pile will contain what's behind it and then give us the opportunity to clean it up, backfill it appropriately, and finish off the top.
And you know, we minimize the alteration of the coastal resources seaward. We're not building a revetment made out of stone, which would occupy the intertidal zone. We're driving sheet piles vertically to minimize impacts.
So I guess that's the length of the sheet piles, the scope of the sheet piles is from the area where the concrete walls are. Is it the green line, David?
So David is muted again. So David, the trick to this is when they unmute you, is you have to stay unmuted because otherwise you get kicked out of the meeting.
Oh, no, I figured out how to unmute myself. So the idea behind this was to keep the sheet piles. We spent a lot of time working with Chapter 91 already. My first approach was I wanted to do a sheet pile straight line, top to bottom on the site. And Chapter
But my
91
question is from where to
basically said no.
from where to where?
Right. Well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Just a roundabout way of getting there. So after extensive time with Chapter 91, we concluded that what we were trying to do was just, we're going to be building within 3 or 4 feet of the existing revetment wall, the top of it. Will be pretty tight on the bottom of it. It's a sloping revetment wall. So we're mimicking what's already out there and putting a straight line sheet pile in its place. Did that make sense to what you're asking?
So that sheet piling is that the green line? That's my question.
No, the green line that you see on there is the bottom of the wall. You can see it labeled in green. That was a calculation that I had to come up with to answer some of the questions. The sheet pile is basically on the northern portion until you get down to the deck, is right on the edge of the 10-foot boardwalk. And then it turns and follows the back edge of the wooden deck and then continues in a south westerly direction, mimicking the shoreline.
So the sheeting is the black line that's closest to the river. I'm still, I don't know why we can't see where the sheeting line is too, I guess.
It's the black line closest to the river, correct.
Okay. So that's actually increasing the upland area a little bit, I guess.
It's a deck. It's a deck though.
Right. So
well, it's not. It's sheeting. It's steel sheeting that's driven. These are interlocking pieces, so it's going to create a wall when it's all done.
Right. The difficulty, Mr. Snow, is that at various places the wall toes out. So the bottom of the wall is more seaward than the top of the wall.
I understand.
So the only way you can get the sheeting in front of the wall is to put it at the toe of the slope.
I get it.
Right.
But the sheeting doesn't end at the deck. It then turns, it kind of follows the inside of the deck, and then it continues on towards the bridge.
Correct. We originally wanted it one straight line because it's easier to construct in one straight line. After consultation with DEP, they said, no, we want you to follow the toe of the existing wall, and that's why it jogs in.
Okay.
And what additional area, it's minimal, that we achieve by creating that vertical wall at the toe, we're dedicating to public access. So it's not like there's any benefit to us. We're just using this as an opportunity to create that public access way.
Okay. And so when this is driven, I'm still trying to look at the details on this. When this sheeting is driven, it's going to be about, I'm reading this at about 1 foot higher than the parking lot. Is that right?
That is correct.
So this will hold back the water that would normally flow towards maybe through the seawall or whatever.
Typically, there are small little scupper drains left in these sheet piles.
That's not shown here, right?
No.
Okay. So back to Amy. So the questions we're having an engineer review this, some sort of a peer review. The question of whether any improvements could be made for discharge into the river. I mean, it's a significant project, and although we're not triggering something in terms of change, it's a fairly large project. It'd be nice to know that dirty water and whatnot from this parking area isn't all just headed still towards the river. And then 3, the question of legality in terms of moving the boat ramp into that private way. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So Adam, given those 3 things,
yeah,
where do we want to go with this in terms of time?
Again, my question is, do you want a peer review by a marine engineer? And if the commission says yes, that's going to take some doing to try and get someone on board within some reasonable period of time. And that's going to inform how much time we're going to need to get that done. Because presumably then you need to solicit proposals and review the proposals and select a consultant, and then the consultant's going to need review time. That adds a great deal of time to the process. So it would be helpful for us to see whether or not the commission this evening wants to have a peer review so that we can make the best decision.
well, and I also think the input from the other town officials and boards
Well,
just
why do
on a basic level to make sure that their approvals aren't going to like redirect some of what is happening here. There should be consultation, and that's going to take some time too.
But this is an NOI for a bulkhead. And that, I mean, I just don't know why would this involve, say, planning or if it's DPW, are we asking their engineer to review this type of work? I mean, if we're going to get a consultant, I just don't want some overlap here. And I'm not sure why we have to lap in like Board of Health or anything like, I don't understand.
And I don't think we need to wrap in all of those people either. I think we're looking at mostly DPW and maybe select board or TA for public access and planning board or zoning board. I know somebody's got history on this, because I've sent around asking for comments and have received minimal, but that it would need further review by, say, for instance, DPW would be one of the boards that got back to me.
So again, I have no problem contacting who you want us to contact. That's fairly easy. I just need to know whether you want a peer review by a marine engineer, hopefully this evening. So if you say yes, then we're going to need time to accomplish that. If you say no, I think we can do this on a more expedited basis.
I guess my question would be, do we need like a full-blown review, or could there be some sort of cursory review? But I'm not even sure who you call for that. I mean, you guys must have some idea. Amy, I guess that was more directed to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that we should start with some consultation from legal and other town officials and try to determine to what level we need a peer review. I mean, I'm not 100% on a peer review, although we've had peer reviews for coastal engineers for these types of projects before.
I wouldn't mind getting some sort of cursory review of this if it's that simple. Maybe I'm.
Didn't we? I feel like I remember a revetment repair on one of the town parking lots in the last couple of years.
But we've had town parking lot projects, but we've also had the private marina off of the Driftway.
And did we have a peer review for that? I mean, just if we're weighing in, I'm fine knowing that Army Corps is going to look at this thing. I mean, I really don't know what I would do if, as a, or what an engineer would do when they're going to review this if their opinion for some reason differs with the Army Corps opinion. I'm feeling like I don't want to see the applicant get into a ping pong match with different review consultants. And I just have a lot of confidence in the eyes that are going to look at this. These Chapter 91 permits are extensive in the review. So I personally don't feel the need to have a peer review. So that's just one of the members' opinions there that Adam's looking for, at least.
I know this is not. But that's a good point, Doug. I haven't really considered. I mean, it is going to get looked at by a lot of other eyes.
For what it's worth, I would agree with Doug completely.
Frank, why don't you ask the rest of the board, please?
All right. Penny, what would your opinion be on that?
No peer review.
Okay. So we've got Richard, Doug, Penny, Jen.
I feel as though it's a no right now, but I don't want to say no overall on the chance that some of the other people consulted would suggest that.
All right. Andy?
Yeah, I feel like there's a few issues muddled here. I think on the engineering side, I feel okay without the peer review with all the eyes on it. There are some other issues of access and stuff floating around that it sounds like we need some just to get some confirmation on.
Okay. And Brendan?
I agree with Doug.
Okay. So I'm going to summarize it this way, that we really don't need we're not going to look for a marine engineer to review the sheeting. We're going to get some opinions on the public access and the boat ramp. And I'd just like to see if there's some way in the process of improving this that we could do a little bit to improving runoff from the marina. I think in terms of a ecological benefit, we talk about mitigation or not needing mitigation or whatever, but from an ecological standpoint, there's a lot of asphalt. This thing's been sort of built haphazardly over the years. And it would be nice to know in the process of getting all this done, if we were doing a little bit better of runoff going into the river. I don't think that's an unreasonable thought. Does anybody have any ideas on that?
So, Mr. Snow, I'm sorry, if you would be so kind as to, would you authorize Ms. Amara to, I assume it's Ms. Amara that you want me to speak to with respect to the legal issues?
I think that would be great. Yeah. Amy, we can arrange that, right? Send an email to Cindy asking and copying Adam to discuss that. Get permission.
I mean, I would like to talk to her first so we can figure out what the issues and then set up a direct contact. Yes.
All right. We're there.
Why don't you motion to continue to August 30th?
Okay, but we're clear on the scope of what we want, so we're not gonna hit August 30th and then ask them for additional items.
Well, if the information's not back by the time August 30th comes, then maybe they'll be asking for a continuance. But I think that that's a pretty good chunk of time where lots
Okay,
of questions can be answered and people consulted, so.
okay. So I'll take a motion. Adam, are we good with this?
Motion to continue 21 Central Ave to August 30th.
So second,
Second,
all in favor? Let's go. Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is very helpful. We appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Good night.
316 Hadley Road. On July 19th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. in the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Jennifer and Christopher Morrison for work related to raising and reconstructing a single-family dwelling at location at 316 Hadley Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. Okay. Do we
Frank,
have-
Chris Lucas is on for this one.
Okay, Chris.
Great. Thank you. For the record, my name is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental, professional wetland scientist and soil scientist. We also have Jennifer and Chris Smith on the call tonight as well. They're the applicants for the proposed project. Just so the board's aware that they have a purchase and sale agreement to buy the property. They're not the current owners. All the paperwork was provided to that effect with the notice of intent. So with that, they are on a tight timeline here to get all the permits. They recently got approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals. I believe it was last week, but they were approved there. The existing lot is just under an acre. It contains which is the graph on the figure on the left. It shows the existing 3-story house with driveway to the east. It has a shed, a pergola, concrete walkway, concrete paver patio, and several landscaped areas. There's a residence located to the west. Haverly Road is located to the south, as well as the wetland system. To the east is a wooded area, intermittent stream, and the Egypt Beach parking lot. And to the north is the sheep ponds and Egypt Beach to the north. There's no rare species habitat on the site, no certified vernal pools, no EC or ORWs. The intermittent stream on the site, you can see it flows in a northwest direction through Duck Pond in the center of the site. It continues flowing northward off the property. The site was delineated in April of this year and contains 3 general resource areas. There's the inland bank associated with the intermittent stream, which was not delineated as it's entirely within the BVW, which was delineated with A series 1 through 16 on the site, which is located just behind the house. To the south of Haley Road is another bordering vegetated wetland system, which is off-site. These 2 areas pretty much puts the entire site in the 100-foot buffer zone, and there's majority of the sites in the 50-foot buffer strip. We also have the entire site's located in land subject to coastal storm flowage. Based on the current mapping, that's elevation 14, which is the entire site. The site is completely developed. As you can see on the plan, there's a small limit showing the edge of lawn. There's a little vegetated area located to the west, and there's a small area vegetated to the northeast corner of the site. The rest of it's either developed with the house or it's all lawn down to the edge of pond. The area around the pond has been actively maintained historically, legally and lawfully maintained. To the north and east, there's significant amount of phragmites off the property along the stone wall. And the mowing is actually keeping it away from the pond right now from spreading. Proposed project in front of you is removal of the existing house, driveway, walkways, patio, pergola, and shed. The pergola platform, the shed, All those structures to the east of the pond are actually in the wetland. It's lawn back there, but it does have hydric soils and under indicators. So they're removing all those structures and proposing a new house with a garage, driveway, and deck. That's shown on the right. You can see the area in red. There's a dashed green line showing the existing footprint of the old house, so you can see it for comparison. The new house is slightly larger than the existing, about 80 square feet larger, plus there's an additional 672 square foot garage. The nice thing about this project, we're actually reducing the impervious area of the site by close to 40%. There's roughly 4,100 square feet of impervious now, and when the project is raised and rebuilt, we'll have 2,600 square feet of impervious on the site. So it's a significant reduction, which we think is a significant benefit. Also to the east, the driveway pretty much encroaches right up to the edge of the wetland along the east there. That's all going to be removed and revegetated. The driveway is being relocated to the southwestern corner, and it's proposed as a permeable driveway, which will access the garage. The site will have be tied to sewer in Haverly Road, so there's no need for a septic on this site. We are proposing at the limit of work along the back of the house, a mulch wattle erosion control barrier. There's a new deck proposed on the back of the house. We're not proposing any supports or any work on the ground. It'll be structurally attached to the back of the house, so we can pull the actual physical structure back further from the duck pond. The structure is FEMA compliant. The first floor living area will be 1 foot above the flood elevation at 15.1. And we propose to revegetate the other areas where the pergola and shed and the pavers are located. So overall, we think it's a good improvement to the site with the removal of the impervious and revegetation of several areas that are currently paved. With that, Mass DEP issued, they had no comments when they issued the letter as well. And with that, I'll leave it open to the board and staff for any comments.
Great, thanks. Andy?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, number of improvements here, which is great to see. It looks like there's a bridge now. Will they lose access to the back portion of the lot?
No.
Due to the stream, or am I misreading this map?
No, it's all on there. You can cross over that.
You can just cross over. Okay.
It's pretty narrow.
The
wetland through there right now, it's lawn. The wetland's in the lawn, so it's not vegetated, so they can walk right over the stream. It's only, I think, 2 feet wide over there, if that. I don't even know if it's
okay. Great. And then it looks like there's maybe 5 trees in the front coming out. Just what those trees are?
I do not recall what was out there. I've seen a lot of stuff since April. Jennifer's on the phone. Jen, do you know what trees there out front? I think she's muted.
Hi, did I successfully unmute myself?
You did.
You did.
Jen Morrison. I do not know the types of trees. I have pictures of them. And I do know that they are, I wouldn't say all 5 are already dead, but at least 3 out of the 5.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm good for now. Thanks.
All right, great. Brendan?
So on that deck on the back, did you say that that's attached to the house? Like there are no other pilings or?
I believe it's going to be too large to be cantilevered, so they're going to A-frame back to the house. They're looking at structurally how they'll do that, but they'll have no posts into the ground. It'll be structurally affixed to the siding of the house to make sure it's structurally sound and won't need any.
Okay, and then so you're removing all that driveway, and you said it's going to be revegetated. What's it going to be revegetated with? Let's see.
The portion on the property, you can see the edge of lawn actually extends off the property with the current owner. I think what we can do is loam and seed the existing driveway so they have lawn, and then the area offsite we can can see with the conservation mix and the portion between the wetland, and we can do a wetland mix, a wetland seed mix, and kind of create a meadow and let it naturalize on its own over time. But at least it'll provide stability in the short term.
Okay, thank you.
Richard?
No.
Yeah, well, along the lines, excuse me, of what Brendan said, I would think somewhere along the line, there should be just a planting plan or whatever's going to be happening in writing, excuse me. That's really all I have. The rest of it looks like a great improvement.
Doug? Thanks, Richard.
It looks, to me, there's really no change in grade whatsoever, if I'm reading the plan correctly. Is that right?
Correct. The grading is, for the most part, staying the same, and it'll be torn down and rebuilt. So the interior of the house elevations will change. It's 3 stories now. They're proposing 3 stories under the condition. Actually, if you look at it, the cover sheet of our NOI shows the house, and the top floor is actually that upper level is a little slanted. So it's definitely in need of this. But yeah, there's minimal to no grading.
Yeah, it looks like virtually not a few spot elevations here and there, but really
Right.
not much. So that's great, and I think ripping out that driveway and revegetating that area is an improvement to the site. So no, I think it's good.
Thanks. Penny?
No, I'm all set, thanks.
Jen?
I'm good, thanks.
Amy?
Yeah, I mean, all in all, it's good. AE 14 buffer to BVW with the duck pond. We do want to see a 12-inch silt sock, so that would be a condition. Construction entrance, a raised rebuild, and the structurals we do not have in hand, which we typically do on a project like this. But they will definitely need to meet FEMA requirements for building code for building in flood zone. And ZBA did approve the nonconformities, and it was last week. The ZBA, no significant DEP comments, and it appears to meet the Wetlands Protection Act and Scituate bylaw.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience?
None, Fred.
Great. I'm all set. Take a motion.
Make a motion to close.
Penny, for a second.
Second that, Doug.
Doug, all in favor? Richard?
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great, thank you. Thanks, Chris.
I appreciate your time this evening. Have a good night.
You too. 151st Parish Road, they're
We already took
requesting.
care of that, Frank.
Oh, you got it. Sorry. Thank you, Richard. 10 Pennycrest, we continue that one, or is that on tonight?
No, it's on.
Okay. Is that Brad?
Yeah, we have Brad Holmes and Ann Burbine on the line for this.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR. Here to present a restoration plan for work in the buffer zone at 10 Pennycrest Road. At the end of last week, we submitted a restoration proposal to the commission. I put some copies in the mail, hard copies, so you probably don't have them yet. What we're proposing is restoration in the buffer zone and partially within the riverfront area to address some site work that occurred in the springtime. Ann Burbine owns the property here at 10 Pennycrest Road. There's work within the buffer zone within an area that is at the edge of their lawn. There's a row of boulders, if you can see on the plan, that kind of demarcates an area that of upland area that's on her lot and the abutting lot owned by Scott Logan. And that row of boulders is just above the limit of a bordering vegetative wetland. That area is depicted on the plan was an area that was cleared. Cavanero Consulting performed a site survey and located the limits of work. The line of boulders acts as a very clear distinction in the field, and that is where the work extended to. That row of boulders protects the wetland, and there wasn't any work within the bordering vegetative wetland system. The area work that was performed in the buffer zone consisted of basically mowing and kind of grading of or grubbing of brush. The trees that were in the area, the majority of the trees remain as is. So what we've done is we prepared a restoration proposal to revegetate that area within the 50-foot buffer zone, the area that the commission would look for restoration activities in the inner buffer zone, with a mix of native saplings and shrubs and an herbaceous seed cover. I see that you're not able to view the plan because you don't have it up, and I know we just got it to the commission on Friday, but this is kind of more of a update for the commission to tell you where we're at now that we've been able to get the sites delineated, surveyed, mapped, and a proposal prepared. So I know that you haven't been able to really look at it, but we wanted to give the commission an update on that activity and proposing a restoration proposal. So
Jen Smith just left her desk to see if she could pull that up, Brad.
Thanks, Frank.
No?
But this is good for discussion.
Okay, I'm not sure we can pull it up, Brad. My apologies. So
we realized we just got it to the board, and this is really just we didn't want to continue again. Wanted to just let you know where we're at, and the significant items for the commission is: one, the work did not occur in the bordering vegetative wetland. The area is partially within the buffer zone, within the inner buffer zone, and we're proposing a full restoration of that area using native saplings and shrubs in a seed mix. A small portion of the area is within the riverfront. There's a perennial stream that's located to the east that with the 200-foot riverfront area that overlaps it a little bit. But within that area, we're proposing restoration of any of the areas that were disturbed. So the restoration scheme that I've used over the past and the commission's familiar with. So I think that the commission would be supportive of that, as far as the methodology proposed. But as far as the final details, those would be on the plan that you'll hopefully receive soon.
Okay. Well, let's. If anybody's got any questions on what we have so far. Brendan?
I do not have a question yet.
Okay, let me circle back. Richard?
I don't really have any without seeing the actual plan itself. I'm pretty confident it's going to be good, but we really do need to see it.
Thanks, John. Doug?
The row of boulders, were those there prior to the clearing, or were those part of the project that was done in the buffer zone?
I think those boulders were probably there when they constructed the house or something, and that.
So those are okay. So those weren't
pushed up there just recently. No.
Correct.
Okay.
That's an old row of boulders, and it's a kind of historically filled up to that row of boulders, and then the wetland
Sure.
is right at the toe of that slope
Okay.
on the
Right.
boulders.
Thanks. I just clarification for that. Thanks.
Okay. Penny?
I'm all set. I know the planting plan. Brad always does a good job.
Jen?
Ah,
go.
that.
Thank you.
Jen's a miracle worker. Jen Smith. in this
Thank you,
one.
Jen.
So I'm just looking looking at it right now. Is there a reason why and maybe you said it, but without seeing it, it's hard to kind of like contextualize, the planting plan doesn't extend to a little bit into that line of spruce trees?
The surveyors actually located the limits of disturbance. And I mapped that out in the green. I didn't propose restoration activities landward of the 50-foot buffer zone,
Okay.
other than just stabilizing the area with a loam and seed mix.
Okay.
Andy? Anything different now with seeing this plan?
No, I mean, it looks good. No questions for me.
Brendan?
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, I can't, there's still no questions.
Richard or Doug, now that the plan's up?
I'm good. It looks good.
Yeah, I'm liking all these plants.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a nice looking backyard when this is done. It's nice. So I'm good.
Amy?
Well, I mean, I think that this is, shows good faith effort in, trying to, replant an area that was disturbed, not on purpose. Like, it wasn't like atrociously like out there to get the wetlands or anything. So I think it was, why we took it as an RDA is because we want to be able to work with this applicant and just get this done. Administratively, I mean, I suppose that we could say it's a negative DOA and accept the restoration plan with a caveat of a 2-year monitoring and 75% survival rate, which is what replications get. We know that from our in-depth conversation at our last meeting. Another way to formalize this would be under an enforcement order. So, I mean, this one is slightly complicated in that not all of the disturbed area is actually on 10 Pennycrest. So there's the abutter property that, I mean, that looks like there's some access that would need to happen with that encroachment. So it's a little bit more complicated than just the, pretty picture, but those would be my comments. And I just really would like to see consistency among these. This is very comparable to a couple other cases that we have going. And I think it would be very advantageous to all if we are consistent with decisions here.
That's
Use this as the model, Amy.
Do we have Mr. Logan this is on his property, so I'm assuming that
Yeah, Mr. Logan appears to be an out-of-state resident.
Yes.
This area, per Brad, who was a local Scituate native here, is the swamp. And so I think that this is, just family-owned property, legacy property that's an out-of-state owner.
But should he be part of this filing?
Well, I'm not so sure when the filing came in, it was clear that the disturbance was on Logan's property. So this is kind of new information.
He was notified.
Is this Ann?
Amy. Yes. I sent a letter to his post office box in Florida 3 weeks ago and have heard nothing. I know his wife has passed a good number of years ago. He owns about 4 acres and all of it is wet. So, I mean, I'm willing to, I mean, please understand that when I had this done, it was nothing more than brambles and thorns and stuff. So I just cleaned up a mess. And so now I have a bigger mess, but I will take care of it. And whether or not I plant on his property is immaterial because I can see it from my back window.
Well,
I don't think, why would he care?
Because you can't file to do work on someone else's property without.
And
that
I will
being-
just, all right, I will just leave it as it is, which is now vegetated, Frank. It has all grown back in again. And I will plant in the portion that is in fact on my property. This was done inadvertently.
I understand. We got the background. We've heard the background. We just, when a filing's made, you can't file to do work on someone else's property without them consenting to that. So I guess it would be good to get acknowledgement from Mr. Logan, if possible.
I tried, Frank.
Well, maybe it's just not asking for permission, but just letting know that this occurred and that you're been ordered by Scituate Conservation Commission to restore, you know, and then if I don't hear from you in 2 weeks, it's going to be done.
This is the letter that I sent to him. I have inadvertently cleared some of your property behind my house at 10 Pennycrest Road. Since the area is in the 50-foot buffer, I must replant it to conservation's satisfaction. I would appreciate your permission to do so, and I gave my contact information. Is that not what you wanted me to do?
I think that's the start.
Yeah, I do too. So the question is really just administratively how we want to conclude this. And I mean, we've got a lot of irons in the fire here. You know what I mean? So I like to try to figure out a way to expeditiously process.
Well, Amy, you just started this by saying that you want this to be consistent with other projects.
Right. So that's what, and I see it as 2 options, Rick. It boils down to whether you just approve this plan, and then the onus is on the owner to get the access to have it done, which it sounds like he's making progress.
Okay, I mean, I'm happy
Formalize
with
it
that.
under an enforcement order, which would be another administrative way to do it too.
Whichever one is simple is fine with
Yeah,
me.
I think so.
So can I
Okay.
make a motion for a negative?
Well, before you do that, though, I mean, what we're talking about here is linking this project to other projects.
Yes.
But each one of them, we really deal with different.
Well, if it, and I'm kind of surprised that I didn't notice that the clearing crossed the property lines. I was just looking at the
Me too.
vegetation plan, so I'm a little embarrassed by that, but I was all caught up in all the trees. But if we're being consistent, it seems to me like if somebody's going to do work in the buffer, this type of planting would be exactly what we would be looking for.
Yes.
They're all, you know, native healthy species, and it makes an improvement in the buffer zone over what was there previously. So it seems like kind of a good model, other than the fact that it's on 2 different pieces of property, but that's, you know, from an environmental perspective, that's somewhat moot. It's just that I get it administratively, that's a problem because an RDA is indicating that the work does not constitute the, the filing of a notice of intent or the Wetlands Protection Act, right? I mean,
Right, but yet we've given others with the same type of actions the opportunity to handle their, issues with the RDA. We were thinking that was the easier route. But I mean, clearly under enforcement order, we can just accept the restoration plan, and then you have something that's in the file that it gives accountability for the action and has a timeline associated with it.
so you can't add the 2-year growth period in an RDA? Is that?
Well, I mean, you could, but I mean, I don't know, the feedback that I'm receiving from the state, for instance, would be that the cleanest way to do it would probably be under an EO.
Let's do an EO.
I mean, and it sounds so evil, but it's not. It's just words that just make it, it sets it in stone a little bit.
I'm fine with that.
Let's do it as an EO.
Okay.
Okay. So do we want a motion?
Accept the plan as an EO. That's a motion.
What is an EO, please?
Enforcement order.
Fine.
It is
Doesn't
telling
change
you
what you
you
do.
have to do this.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
It's just simply going to be accepting, Brad's plan.
Yeah,
All right.
fine.
So we have a motion.
Yes.
We have a second.
Second.
That's Penny. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. Ann, thank you very much. It would be good to get, if you can get anything
Thanks,
back from
Ann.
Mr. Logan, it'd be great.
Send him a copy of this colored plan. You can't.
Yep, that's good.
He doesn't even know what the woods look like. He's been
Okay.
gone
It's,
so long.
it's
Thank
pretty
you.
and flashy.
Thank you. 144 Hadley Road. So this is a continuation, and really this was just waiting to hear about this infrastructure, this water quality unit, which we finally received, and we got a email from Sean McCarthy that he was fine with this, and I'm fine with it, except that we find out that they've already gone ahead and built it. This whole thing's already complete.
Yeah.
And I just, the other piece of it is that,
Can we fine them for doing this without permission?
Amy?
Yeah, the answer is yes, and that's something that's in process and will be considered as part of the bigger picture. But at this point, my recommendation, I guess, or I'm not recommending, but it appears that we should close this out and, just put, it's in. And I've been.
It needs to be some repercussion for doing it without our permission. That's all.
Yeah,
I'm saying. So
and Toll Brothers is,
I'm happy.
Toll Brothers has admitted that it was something that just needed to occur to address stormwater management rate and volume that, was happening in this last month of inundation with rain. So and there's some tweaking that's going to happen to it as well, it appears. So, but the good news is that we're making progress, and it's going to be sunny tomorrow. And, I think we're trying to move forward here, but yes, it's all part of a bigger picture.
So what are you looking for? A -3 on it?
Well, before that, just because we're still dealing with all these issues of runoff into the marsh, and we're getting calls from abutters that are claiming that there's more water. I mean, do we know that this didn't adversely impact anything?
I don't know.
So, I mean, I can,
Or Dave,
sorry.
yeah.
Sorry. So I can speak briefly, and so as part of this, back in April of last year, documentation was submitted to town. We received approval via Karen. I have email from Karen Joseph from Town Planning regarding the matter. A full hydro analysis, hydrocat analysis was done by Stantec Engineering, comparing pre-existing conditions versus the approved subdivision plan versus what impact would have the various different watersheds as a result of the implementation of this drainage installation work. And I don't have it open in front of me, but I'm paraphrasing, but I believe as far as the impact to the neighboring border vegetating wetland, the rate and peak, I believe, actually was a decrease from the approved subdivision plan, and of course, I believe a decrease from the existing conditions on the site. So regarding some of the neighbors in 7th Avenue, based on the based on several different analyses done to date, the volume of water going to the wetland is actually lower than, not more than, pre-existing conditions, even with this new pipe going in there.
All right, and also I wanted to clarify that we've had discussions that as soon as we can, or Toll can demonstrate that the water exiting the structure is clean, that it will go where it was intended to go, which is into that back wetland system.
And on that note, Amy, the swale, which we walked last Thursday, has now been fully, as of, I think, the end of the day, Friday, by that end of that day, was fully sodded. The check swales or the check socks should have been installed back. I believe they were this morning. So that area should achieve close to full stability. I mean, I want to paraphrase. I think almost any minute now it should basically be pretty stable. That root system, with some of the favorable small amounts of rain we've had, is very favorable to keep kicking off that sod and getting it to root in very quickly here.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll take a motion. Or does anybody want to make any comment? Richard?
Sorry about that. I'm good.
Okay, Doug?
No comments.
Penny?
I already stated mine. It has to be a
Okay.
repercussion for doing it without permission.
Jen?
I echo Penny's sentiments.
Andy?
Add.
Brendan?
I agree with Jen and Penny. I have nothing else to add.
Okay. Amy?
I think I've said my piece.
So if this is a -3, what do we do about it being constructed without permission?
Well, I don't think that this needs to be considered separately. I think they can be rolled into the big picture that we're evaluating for stormwater violations.
Okay. I'm not saying that we had a filing.
Yeah.
but we hadn't closed it and it was constructed. All right, that's fine. So go ahead and Penny, make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion for -3.
I'll
Do we have a
second.
second? That's
I'll second.
Richard.
Yep.
All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
because I was late here, what else do we have on the agenda?
We did the rest, Frank.
Nothing, everything else is done.
Okay. So I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We got a motion, we got a second.
Second.
It's Jen, all in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Andy,
Yes.
he's already gone. Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Good night.